Right, Celtic will reveal their season ticket campaign pretty soon. They'll be coming asking us supporters for more money, despite everything that's happened so far this season. So I thought it would be useful to have a wee conversation about what we want to see from Celtic, what we think we'll see from Celtic, and how this whole situation will play out. We've got Euan from 67 Hail Hail joining us. Euan, you're a bit of a regular now. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've got better internet since we last did this, so hopefully no catastrophic errors this time.
Fantastic, and delighted to say making his debut on 67 Hail Hail, we've got Pearse McLaughlin. So how are you, Pearse?
I know bad, mate.
Good to have you on, making your debut, as I say, and you've got a nice kind of interesting video, I think, to chat about. First of all, when are Celtic going to make this announcement, or whatever you want to call it, campaign, I suppose, with regards to season tickets? Last year, you may remember, in a world prior to COVID-19, they asked for season tickets on March the 9th. They went with the original tag of a cause, a culture, a calling. Then COVID happened and they were forced to change that to this season starts at home, all the action, all the excitement, and all the action. If you remember, guys, the I and the O of that was a 1 and a 0. That kind of didn't pan out too well, but that's what they came out with. Adult tickets were priced at £510, or from 510. Over 65s from the really specific price of 331, and kids from a pretty low price of £50. So we're going to kind of steer clear of the pricing with regards to that. But first of all, Ewan, to bring you in, people seem to assume that there's going to be a really large drop-off in season tickets from this season to next season for a lot of reasons. You maybe have a slightly different take on that?
I think there will be a drop off, but I don't think it'll be as catastrophic as everyone's predicting, because ultimately, people buy season tickets to watch Celtic matches and to be at Celtic Park, and we've not had that since last March. So we could be fourth or fifth, and there would still be a huge uptake in terms of season tickets. It's just it's such a huge part of our lives, really, and it's about there will be good times and there will be awful times, but ultimately I think there's still a huge core of folk who will want to turn up every other week and hopefully twice a week for European matches. So yeah, I think obviously it won't be the same as last season, but I don't think the downturn is going to be as bad as reported. I think there's a variety of factors that we'll probably get onto that would help the numbers go up or down. But ultimately, I do think because we've missed football so much that it won't be as catastrophic for the bean counters at Celtic as everyone's predicting.
It's interesting because I assumed that after this season, in a normal world, there would be a massive drop-off, regardless of what happened almost. If we won 10 in a row, which is obviously really, really unlikely at this stage, I felt that a lot of season ticket holders may decide not to renew. They may want a wee break from Celtic, because the last 4 or 5 years have been really intense. Ever since Brendan Rodgers came in, it's been 2 matches a week. It's been cup finals, cup semi-finals, European games. It's been really, really an intense time to support Celtic, and I felt people might take a break. But I suppose COVID, as much as it was an enforced break that we didn't want, it has given everyone a break from going to Celtic games, and we may well be excited to get back next season. Pearse, do you foresee a real drop off in season ticket sales next season?
I don't think there would be that much of a drop off. I think maybe just a little, because obviously performances haven't been that great this season. But with what Ewan said, regardless if win, lose or draw, we all want to watch Celtic, and the most important thing is getting the fans back in the stadium and try to help the performances of the team just improve.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We all love Celtic, and that's why I think it's going to be such a difficult decision for so many fans, Ewan, because you're going to have a club that has, I think, behaved appallingly this season and is taking the fans for mugs. And they're going to do that yet again. They're going to come back with their hand out asking for more money, and Celtic fans are going to have a decision to make, because people love their Saturdays. They love going to see the team play on Saturdays, but equally they're so disillusioned with what they've seen this season.
Absolutely, and I think such an important factor is that a lot of folk who would have had disposable income last year for a season ticket have been affected by COVID financially. It's hit the pockets as well as as in the hospitals, as in as much as everything else. People have lost their jobs, and that's going to be something that affects every massive football community. It doesn't matter the club. So there's that issue to take on board as well. Do the club necessarily deserve our money? I think that's up for debate. Um, the fans have been ignored in such a raft of issues that it's hard to justify in some ways, because ultimately you're investing in a company that you don't really, the actions of a company that you don't really approve of, and you're watching this thing that you love being led by PLC. You make bad decision after bad decision, so it's definitely a heart versus head thing. But I think with football, heart always wins in the end. So um, I think it's going to be tricky for a lot of folk, though. I think in terms of the economic impact of all this, I realise that that you can pay on finance and all the rest of it, but I think it will be a tougher decision in terms of the practicalities for a lot of folk this year, and I include myself in that. So it's going to be tricky, but again, I mean, ultimately, it's not. It's more about the players on the pitch as opposed to whether you approve of Celtic as a company and the way the boardroom behave, and it's more about what happens in a pitch, and I think ultimately that's the thing that'll win folk over. As sad as it is to say that, it's just kind of that's what it's about, really. So aye.
Yeah, I mean we're looking at early March for the message coming out from the club based on recent years. Pearse, easy question. Well, I say easy question. It's probably quite a difficult question. What's the one thing, if there is just one thing, the main thing you think that the club have to do to convince supporters to part with more hard-earned cash after such a poor season?
Well, I think that has to do with the appointing a director of football and a potential new manager who, obviously, before the season starts, because obviously we all know the Champions League qualifiers are going to be around the corner as soon as the season finishes. And with this projected kind of clear out of the squad, and we'll kind of need to know who we're going to potentially go in for as well. And it's all right spending money, but we spent money this year and they didn't turn out great. So it's all about being shrewd with your business. And I think we need to try doing, we were unlucky with the Ben Davies, but more kind of deals like that would be beneficial for the club.
But are we going to see that communicated to the club's fans, Pearse, before March, when you consider, I mean, they may put it back a few weeks, they may put it back a month this year, given the way things are, but even in April, I still think Neil Lennon's going to be in charge. We know that Dominic Mackay isn't going to be in until the start of July. I don't foresee a director of football being appointed before April, so, but equally the club are going to have to give the supporters something to go off rather than just the usual crappy, mottos and stuff. So are we going to see change communicated between now and in April?
I don't see it, generally, because obviously we're meant to have the January review.
Well,
we didn't have
it was
that.
an early year review, but
They could put it back.
It was the start of the Chinese New Year, isn't it? So maybe that's what we're going for. I don't know.
Maybe, but I don't see it happening. To be fair, well, I think Lennon will be will be in charge come the end of the season. But it's more about just trying to get the performances better on the pitch and just try to get more consistent results, because that's what we've not had this season. How many times you win, then the next game you're losing. So it's not been good enough, to be fair.
So Euan, is Neil Lennon the giant elephant in the room here? Is he the guy who will stop people renewing if he's still the manager? Is it as simple as that?
I'm in two minds here, because I don't think it is as simple as that, purely speaking. But I do think he has a massive impact on what what will affect fans' moods going forward. I think you're going to see quite a smooth transition of power between Peter Lawwell and Dominic Mackay. I think they will be working behind the scenes to make sure that Dominic Mackay can hit the ground running and potentially carry out all the sort of last finer details that Peter Lawwell would have wanted to implement at the club. But it depends what Neil Lennon does. If he starts playing youngsters, if he starts playing fan favourites, then that could get a lot of people on board, even if he's going to leave it in the summer. But I think you're right in the sense that it's not inspired a lot of confidence, is it? I mean, he's not a blockbuster name. He's not someone that, when Brendan Rodgers came in, that was quite an easy sell, especially after the first season he had. That was, that was still nice in the winter, really. So I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any urgency to get Neil Lennon out of his job. He seems to be quite happy with the job he's doing, so I think that will affect things. But again, I think ultimately the lure of watching Celtic is going to have the biggest impact here. And there are a couple of things he can do. Obviously, playing youngsters, and if one of the big contracts gets renewed, if Edward or Ayer, for example, get an extension, I think that will change the minds of a few folk, because it means we kind of have some contingency going forward. But yeah, it's hard to say. It's really, really hard to say. And I think Neil Lennon is a stumbling block for a lot of people. I think he turns a lot of people off. And, it's not like we play the best football under him as well. So from an entertainment point of view, I don't know. But yeah, it's certainly, from my perspective, he does make me a bit more reluctant to part with my money, I'll be honest.
Yeah, there's real structural problems at Celtic, and we know all that, and it certainly seems like things are going to change in that front. With Dominic Mackay coming in, there's been reports, Fergal Harkin, different people like that could possibly come in as a director of football. But for me, in terms of season tickets, that stuff's great, and you could argue that's the long-term stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think so many people wouldn't renew their season tickets if Neil Lennon's still the manager. I just think to call him a divisive figure would probably be understating it at the moment. He is, he's a really frustrating figure at the moment. The comments he makes in the press, the comments he's been making all seasons, the subs he makes during games, his continued loyalty to certain players like Shane Duffy, Scott Brown, that has cost us really badly this season. His stubbornness,
mm-hmm.
I think he turns a lot of people off, and that's not even going into the complete lack of respect he's shown the Celtic support this season, telling us that everything is okay at the club. Different comments he's made that just seem like he's really arrogant and really full of his own self-importance and really out of touch with what the support are feeling. And for me, that goes for the club as a whole. That the one thing, and this may be pie in the sky, the one thing I would love to see from Celtic between now and between them asking for more money from supporters is an admission, or at least an acceptance, that this season hasn't been good enough. Stop telling us that we won the quadruple treble this season and COVID has cost us this season, and admit your mistakes. Eventually Peter Lawwell admitted that Dubai was the wrong thing to do, so they are capable of it from time to time. So come out, not the day before you're asking for our money, come out prior to that and admit to the support that you got it badly wrong, and tell us what you're going to do to put it right next season. Do you think supporters would buy into that, Pearse?
I think so, because the Celtic as a club this season have been reactive rather than proactive, and there's been obviously a massive disconnect with the fans, whereas they're always punishing the fans for making statements, which in my eyes have been through this season. And Lennon should have gone after the Ferencváros game, Absolutely. In my opinion, because that was the kind of catalyst. The downward spiral ever since then, we've never been consistent. But I still think Lennon will be in charge coming into the season. So kind of depends on. But we need to kind of hear more from Dermot Desmond, because he's all been hush hush.
Yeah, part for that daft Athletic interview he did, where he said that bloody this team would beat Martin O'Neill's team. He's not said anything all season, has he?
No chance. He's not said anything, because once he usually says something, it's usually that's it. What's getting done is done, because he's done that with obviously Brendan Rodgers coming in. Yeah,
he's probably the one that's going to be kept on from this season to next. Assuming that Lawwell's going to move on, and you would think Lennon would go as well. Even the captain probably won't be around next year. What about if Neil Lennon's the elephant in the room? What about the virus, I suppose, in the room in terms of COVID? Not literally, but looking to next season, the fact that it's still going to be there. Fans are not going to be back. There's not a chance, I don't think, of 100% capacity at Celtic Park for the foreseeable future. I think that's pie in the sky stuff. Sorry if I'm really depressing anyone watching this, but from what I understand, even once vaccines have been rolled out to the vast majority, I still led to believe that masks and some sort of social distancing will still be a part of our everyday life. So is that off-putting to fans, Euan? The fact that they could be paying this money again and not getting to see a single game, because they did it this season, but that was prior to all this carry on, and it was when we were going for 10 in a row.
There's so many problems with the the idea of like phasing in social distancing and masks and stuff, because obviously you can't have a capacity crowd. So of all the season ticket holders, you can't have all of them. So does that mean there's like a rota system, or is it based on loyalty points, or what is? I don't know how you coordinate that, to be honest. I think that will turn people off, actually. Yeah. But again, ultimately, I hate time at this point, but I think people are willing to part with their cash when it comes to Celtic Football Club. And I think they will do in big numbers. And it might be sort of tacit endorsement of Neil Lennon in some cases, might be tacit endorsement of the board, or it might be with a view to, you'll have to stand in section. They'll renew their season tickets. I've no doubt of that, because they can use their being at matches eventually as a form of protest. I don't think Neil Lennon would have survived this season if fans had been in the stadium. So I think from a protest point of view, it's actually more useful to have supporters in the stadium. So. I think in terms of that, that's going to be useful as a tool going forward to try and bring change about the club. So I think there will be that. But yeah, in terms of the social distancing and the masks and stuff, it doesn't put me off as such, but it means it won't be the same experience. And so it's going to be only really your diehards that are going to come and watch the matches. It's not going to be as much of a sort of family thing as it would have been. Because a lot of folks still won't want to take the risk, even after there are vaccines and things. Until this is completely eradicated, you won't get like massive capacity crowds again, not for quite a long time. So, yeah, it's tough, but I don't know. Sorry, that's really, really useless as an answer, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make about people's uncertainty and fear of COVID. I've been watching a lot of the tennis in Australia, where obviously their numbers are way down, and I think they're allowing up to 50-60% of stadia full, and they're not getting anywhere near those numbers. Now, I don't know if it would be different in Scotland, but and the lure of going to see Celtic on a Saturday is huge, but with COVID around, you wonder whether that may put people off buying season tickets. I don't know. Final wee topic I want to touch on, Pearse, is the prospect of a potential mass organised boycott of season tickets. I've not really seen anything formal. I've just seen it rumoured and mentioned by certain people. Do you think that's possible? Do you think Celtic season ticket holders and supporters groups could come together and say to the club, we're not buying season tickets until X happens, and X would probably be Neil Lennon sacked?
I think so. I genuinely think obviously people want every year. Obviously, people buy their season tickets early. I think it'll be maybe when the season starts, people will start obviously getting the numbers up that they should be. But that's only after Neil Lennon leaves, in my opinion. But also, I think as well, they should also reduce the price, in my opinion. Because obviously, this for this season, it's just been a whitewash. It's not even hard. It's just hard to watch sometimes. So until that, they should at least kind of put it down a little bit, and then with the prospect of getting the Champions League, you'd get the prices back up the following season.
Yeah.
So I think that's what should be done in terms of kind of helping the fans kind of get back into watching them again.
Yeah, I suppose it with Peter Law though, won't it, setting the prices, and seeing as he's away in a couple of months, I kind of feel like Peter Law has a bit of disdain for the Celtic support. So I kind of feel like he won't want to do us any favour. I'm just interested to see whether the fans will organise some sort of mass boycott. Obviously there'll be people watching this that believe in Neil Lennon, probably not too many, but that's fair enough. We're all entitled to our opinion, but nobody can deny that the vast majority don't believe in Neil Lennon anymore and haven't done for months. So I think some sort of mass boycott of season tickets maybe in the offing, but you're almost at a standoff situation, and it's almost who blinks first, because the supporters are kind of looking at Celtic and going, I'm probably will renew in the end, but I'm going to try and double bluff type thing, and the club will just be sitting there going, we really could do with the money, but are we going to get it eventually, or do we need to change something? So it's an awkward situation of kind of self-sabotage.
Yeah, self-sabotage has been the name of the game this season, though. I think there's two routes that they can take. I think you can have Neil Lennon onto the summer, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't appoint a successor and therefore make Neil Lennon the interim manager until the summer. That would drive up a lot of season ticket sales. I think if they announced the name and said, "Well, Neil Lennon's been a good servant to Celtic. We're going to let him stay out the season, but obviously we're going to rebuild in the summer, have a bigger name come in, some of not necessarily more experience, but more valuable experience in terms of Europa League and Champions League, winning titles, that kind of thing." Or they
Could we see that?
I don't think it's unfeasible. I think there's every chance that they'll delay until April and carry out the hallowed review. And then name someone to come in. I don't think you can really begrudge Celtic that. I don't think Neil Lennon will be too unhappy with that. Really, I don't think he has any right to be. Whether he actually is or not, that's up to him. But the table doesn't lie, results don't lie. As much as a cliche as that is, it's a results business, and Neil Lennon just hasn't got the results this season. So, they could, show their loyalty with one hand and say, well, we'll give you till the end of the season, you deserve it, and with the others say, well, yeah, but we're going to prepare signings for next season under this manager. He's going to have an input from now. And that could be the thing they do. Or they could try and make up for the losses from matchday revenue, put up the season ticket prices and alienate supporters until the summer, then have a disappointing window, disappointing Champions League qualifying campaign, and then we're back to square one. So I'm not taking bets on it, I'll be honest.
Do you think that's a potential scenario, Pearse, that we could end up with a positive appointment, announced in April for next season?
I think so. But I think it would have to be someone, not necessarily a big name, but someone that will kind of suit the Celtic motto, as in like bringing through young players more, playing attractive football, attacking football, and being sure with the business. And I think from Celtic as well, even if you don't sack Lennon, even do what Rangers did with Alan McCoy, put him in gardening leave. Mm-hmm. That's a potential option, and I think you should do something like maybe if results go bad again, and then just kind of announce the new successor, maybe come the end of April, with potential for starting next season, so that we can start the process of change.
I don't know if I would trust Neil Lennon in my garden, in all honesty, but guys, it's been a good laugh. I've appreciated you coming on. This is an issue that we will revisit in the future. I'm sure it's an issue that's going to be at the forefront of not just season ticket holders but all Celtic supporters' minds, but there's reason to be positive for the future. Why? Because it can't quite simply be any worse than what we've endured this season. So thanks for watching this video. Get in touch in the comments with your thoughts. Are you a season ticket holder? Will you be renewing? If not, then why? And yeah, we'll speak to you soon.